Where last we left off, Mark had started dating Adam Eve, as well as recently getting stopping a planetary invasion on his resume. Sadly, the superhero team he was a part of had disbanded, but the Guardians of the Globe, the most prestigious group on the planet, had offered him a position, and all before he graduated high school. Until he does that though, he's going to refrain from joining any more teams, as he wants to focus on more street-level stuff. After all, somebody has to stop the banks from getting robbed or the prisons from having breakouts while Superman is out killing kaiju. Really, with the Guardians still around, there's never a need for a second Superman. If the original Supes is ever in any trouble, he has the world's finest backing him. So Mark sweating the little stuff is probably for the best, and this turns out to be true once he comes in contact with somebody named Titan. Titan? Tight. Basically, this guy's a part of the Mafia, except the superhero Mafia, which makes it all the worse. His boss is a guy named Machine Head, and he's looking for somebody who can help him take down his boss. In the original, Mark was hesitant about this. He didn't know if it was worth his time, but even if this version of Mark was dealing with world-ending problems, there's no way he would just let this go. So right off the bat, he's all in, but he is still a little cautious since he isn't sure if Titan can be trusted. He's going to try and get a more full perspective on everything before he goes breaking down doors, even though he is willing to do that when the time comes. So Titan would show Mark around the city, all of the crime, corruption, and utterly horrible state that it's in, all of which can be tied back to Machine Head. Something Mark is able to confirm by going to Machine Head's main building and listening in for more than 5 seconds. I mean, seriously, everything he says just sounds like maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Titan already told Mark that no matter what they do, they're going to have to be careful because Machine Head's right-hand man Isotope is able to teleport at the blink of an eye. But that's not exactly true, because Isotope can't do it at the blink of an eye. I mean, sure, he can teleport himself that fast, but not somebody he has to grab onto. So, as fast as he possibly can, Mark would rush into the room, grab Machine Head, and tackle him out the window behind his desk. All the while making sure to do some duck and roll tactics, that way Machine Head isn't killed by the Force. Once having Machine Head away from Isotope, Mark would stay in the air while constantly moving. That way the henchmen couldn't come in and teleport him away. Once reaching the most secure GDA prison, Machine Head would have all of his tech deactivated, at least the ones that aren't required for him to survive. The prison he'd be kept at has a no teleportation field, like we saw in Season 3 with Multipaw's prison, and then over the span of a couple of weeks, he would be grilled until he gave up every last bit of information on the Order. But it wouldn't just be grilling, because let's be real, Machine Head wouldn't want to give up any sort of info because of what the Order would do to him if he did. But at the same time, in the last part, the GDA got access to a whole lot of flax and tech, and that could be pretty useful when bribing somebody literally run off machines. It'd be like offering a man in debt $1 billion. Sure, he knows it probably won't end well for him because there's definitely a drawback, but it's also $1 billion. The most useful detail that Machine Head will give up is the name and location of the leader of the Order, a man named Liu. He was feared by any man that lived in the shadows, and thus he had a great amount of power to back that up. But I'm not just talking power in status, he also had a great amount of raw strength, seeing as he could turn into a dragon. Although as it turns out, while they're having this conversation and Machine Head is giving up this information, Mark's dad was already fighting Liu. Because of widespread conflict that seemed to get a little too intense, Liu decided to get his own hands dirty, turning into a giant dragon like I mentioned a moment ago, and killing thousands of people. Omni-Man might just sit back and let Cecil earn his paycheck, but that's not what Supes is gonna do. He intervenes personally and takes Liu down. Well, that's not exactly how things went down. The Guardians went out to go deal with the situation, however, the dragon attacking Paris was simply too strong, so Superman got involved, distracting Liu while the rest of the Guardians found a way to permanently stop him. Kryptonian's powers might come from beyond the stars, but Liu was extra-dimensional. His power came from realms beyond our comprehension, and thus his strength was undeniable. There was no way Superman could handle him on his own. Red Rush and Aquarius were on support duty. They went around making sure that all people in the area were evacuated, while War Woman and Immortal took on the big lug defending Liu's body. Although that was only after Green Ghost went in and grabbed the current corpse, moving it to a different location. dimension. They weren't going to outright kill him because they don't know if that'd be permanent and what other consequences it might have. So instead, Darkwing, along with all of his magical connections, including down to the underworld, would begin tampering and trying to see if they can dispel the connection between Liu and these outer-worldly powers. They would find a way to do this, meaning that once they get rid of the dragon, it'll be gone for good, but it is still here for the moment, since they didn't kill Liu while he was still connected to that power. Although they're not totally screwed, because Darkwing's sidekick, Nighthawk, actually does have a pretty good way of taking the monster down once and for all, that being his connection to the Shadowverse. With a good little while longer to perfect his control over this ability, he would be able to open full-on portals to this other dimension, meaning that all Superman has to do is lure Liu into a trap, and then he's gone for good. It would only take a couple of minutes before they're able to execute the plan almost perfectly because of the team's expert coordination. Mark would try and tell his father everything they got out of Machine Head. Supes already knew and actually had the problem taken care of. Sure, Mark might be a little bummed out that he wasn't there for all the action, but at the same time, lives were saved and that's all that really matters. For a good long while, it would be mostly peace, with the occasional odd villain poking their head out and doing some planetary level thing, but being taken down within a couple of minutes. The Guardians of the Globe was already an insanely stacked team, but throw Superman into the mix and it's not even fair. Although this piece would be broken by the arrival of Angstrom Levy, who would break the Mauler twins out of prison and begin enacting his multiversal plan. But remember, we're not talking about Angstrom like from Season 3, instead beginning of Season 2 Angstrom, the one that wanted to fix broken universes. This version of Angstrom still plans on combining his collective intelligences from millions of different universes, and as he begins to recruit members to help him build this machine, one of the universes he would go to is Superboy's. He gets the Mauler twins from that Earth and brings them to a different universe, or maybe the same. It was sort of left up to interpretation in the show. Unless I'm missing something, which I probably am. Either way, the Mauler twins would begin building this machine with a bunch of other Mauler twins. Eventually, Angstrom would be ready to commence with the project, but Cecil would notice that there's a lot of built-up energy there. He sends the Guardians of the Globe to handle it though, and this is where things really begin to change from the show. As without Invincible going in uninformed and unqualified to handle this situation, instead it's the Guardians of the Globe led by Superman. Any punching power they need, they have from Supes, and any other strategical work they have to get done, they have by Darkwing, the smartest person on the planet right now, except for maybe Ropa, but that's sort of an Iron Man vs. Batman situation. Red Rush, who can move at supersonic speeds, Green Ghost, who can become intangible, and all of the other Guardians with all of their funky abilities. Although the biggest factor that changes this situation is the Guardians would be in control basically the entire time. They know they can shut this down whenever they really need to, so they go in, calm and collected, trying to figure out what's going on instead of guns blazing. When the Mauler twins begin their assault, the Guardians of the Globe were able to handle all of them pretty easily. Sure, two of them might have posed somewhat of a challenge when they were protecting the White House, but now that they can go no holds bars, yeah, even a group of Maulers aren't doing much. When Angstrom begins calling out, telling them to stop fighting, Superman would come over and listen, hearing everything that's going on and hearing out Angstrom most importantly. This leads to the Maulers being taken out. This leads to all of the different sets of Mauler twins being incapacitated in a non-lethal fashion, and Angstrom's empire not being built on blood. Not only that, it also means that Angstrom's empire gets to be built. The process of transferring all of that information was a success. Angstrom wouldn't take off the helmet and thus is now capable of doing what he set out to in the first place. Of course, Superman would look into things a bit before just allowing Angstrom to do whatever he wanted, but after finding out that what he was trying to do was for the betterment of the entire multiverse, there's no way Supes is gonna say, oh yeah, no, don't do that. It does mean that he is mostly uninvolved with our reality though, as he's off helping so many others. I know it seems like a bit of a cop-out having Angstrom's plan work, but at the same time, I couldn't think of any reality where Superman would let Angstrom fail here. Seriously, he can hear a billion heartbeats around the world. He could lobotomize a man from a mile away using heat vision. Superman is busted, and there's no way he wouldn't figure out what was going on with Angstrom and try his best to make things work. Even though I did originally want to bring in the likes of Homelander and Brightburn, maybe even Ultraman, just to try and sort of spice things up with the Invincible War, but it just didn't make sense for Angstrom to lose. So yet again, we returned to peace, until eventually things would be disrupted once more, except here by a Viltrumite, one who is looking to conquer this planet. Now, because of the likes of Alan coming here instead of Urath, the coalition of planets would have gotten involved and informed them, hey, there are these things called Viltrumites, they're very strong and might come to a planet near you. The Viltrumite that was sent to this planet, though, was none other than the great Nolan. Except here, he's in his prime. He's not the lovey-dovey, I have a family type that he was after years of being on Earth. Instead, he's the I'm going to remove every bone in your body while keeping you alive type. This is also Nolan about 100 years or so before the events of the original series. Yes, we're taking place in that same time frame, but Nolan's younger, more rash, and more I want to get things done now. He might have originally been sent to Earth because he needed to find a compatible species to breed with, but here he's just down to kill things. The first people he goes to kill are the Guardians of the Globe, because they are the worldwide known best superhero group on the planet, and thus the strongest people he has to worry about. Now, of course, he would start things diplomatically. I mean, he practically has to. As Inessa said, they might find pleasure in killing, but they don't kill for pleasure. It goes against their orders. However, when you go to the strongest people on the planet kicking down doors as an alien invader, obviously you're sending the message, I'm here to take over whether you like it or not. So a fight breaks out, but because Superman isn't there, Nolan would clear pretty easy. Yes, obviously the Guardians of the Globe are incredibly formidable, and they might have actually stood a chance against Omni-Man had they known what was going on in the series. The only problem is, this is not the same matchup. Omni-Man in the original series had fought alongside the Guardians many times. They knew how he fought. Here, they have no idea and also don't know how strong he really is. Red Rush would be the first to die because even though he was able to save his teammates, he still tried to go on offense, which really didn't work when his punches are still human even if they're going at Mach 10. The Immortal is next to go because Nolan would plunge his hand straight through the Immortal's chest, and even though this doesn't kill him, being bisected and having his head stomped in definitely would. Then similar things happen to War Woman and Aquarius, and Martian Man would take an extra second to kill because it's a little more tricky, but he's dead too. The only problem is, Green Ghost would get away. You remember how I said that Nolan would have an easier time since the Guardians had never fought alongside him before and didn't know how to take him down? Well, yeah, but it's the same thing for him too. He knows the gist of all of their abilities because it's not too hard to get. Fish guy, super strong guy, fast guy. Intangible Girl is a little more complicated, so after seeing her entire team get butchered, Green Ghost would decide to leave. And guess where she goes? Straight to the strongest man on the planet, Kal-El, also known as Superman. Two supersonic gusts of wind begin racing toward one another. One the strongest man on Earth, and the other a champion from the stars. Someone's in a rush. Slow down, buddy. We gotta have a talk. Nolan stands there, sizing up the man in front of him. You killed my friends, and I'm not gonna let that go. They were good people, and they deserved far better than what you gave them. But, that said, there's no need for more violence. We can end this peacefully. Come to an agreement among our peoples.
My time here has been a speck in the span of my life. You don't know me.
But that's just it. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done. Everybody deserves a chance to turn things around. We've both been blessed with incredible strength, and that means we have a responsibility to protect those without it.
Duty, honor, I almost respect you.
Fine. If you're not gonna take this seriously, then I guess we have to do it the hard way.
Finally, a worthy challenge.
The battle would begin, if you can even call it that, as Superman would have Omni-Man on the ground in a matter of moments. Because of what happened to the Guardians, Superman would be very short on mercy, leading to Nolan actually dying here. And before any of you say that Superman has a no-kill rule, he really doesn't. It changes from comic to comic, but most of the time Superman does kill, just tries his best to avoid it. With the Viltrumites becoming an active threat to the Earth, Superman would contact the coalition of planets, leading to preparations for an all-out war taking place. Although that's where we're going to end things for today, as anything further would be spoilers for the comics, so it's probably just better to wait until season 4. I hope you all have an absolutely awesome day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.